So I'm going to introduce you to everybody that's speaking today. From Buffy, the television show, we have writer Jane Espenson. From the just announced Buffy Season 10, we have artist Rebecca Isaacs and cover artist Steve Morris. Steve's not here, yeah. From the just announced return of Angel and Faith, we have cover artist Scott Fisher. From the brand new Serenity book, we have artist Georges Genty and cover artist Dan Dos Santos. And last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Editor-in-Chief, Scott Alley.
Hey everybody, thanks for sticking around to the bitter end of Friday night at the show. I don't know how much of the information you've seen that's out there so far because you've been here, but we did recently announce that we've got a new 6-issue Serenity series starting in January. We're well on our way making it. It's written by Zach Whedon. It's drawn by Georges Genty with covers by Dan Dos Santos, as Matt just said. And the series is called Leaves on the Wind. I'm going to run through some images. Yeah. Is that good? And it takes place after the film. This is the cover to the first issue by Dan. Dan's also doing some stuff on Tomb Raider for us. And these are some interiors by Georges. We're going to open this up for questions, so please be thinking of questions. We're going to really want to call on you guys and let you steer the discussion. And we're only showing you pages that don't feature the members of the crew. How weird is that? Oh no, there they are. So it was Zach's idea, it was Zach's request to get Georges on the book, so we've got a really cool team. Georges brought his friends, Carl Story, I almost said Carl Moline, Carl Story and Laura Martin on board, and we've got just a really well-rounded crew, just incredible talent, and I think these pages look great. These are the first two covers for Season 10. The Buffy covers by Steve Morris, who did the Angel and Faith covers. We've moved the entire team from Angel and Faith Season 9 over to Buffy for Season 10. We thought they did an amazing job and we wanted to keep them together. They wanted to keep working together, and so we just took everybody, boom, moved them to the other title. And Victor Gischler wrote the Spike series last year that we got mostly a really positive response. We couldn't get a unanimously positive response no matter what we did, I think. But Victor did a great job and he's taken over Angel and Faith. Will Conrad, who wrote the Serenity books who drew the Serenity books that we published a number of years ago, is coming back to Dark Horse after doing a lot of work for Marvel and DC, and he's drawing Angel and Faith. And Scott Fisher is on the covers. This is going to be a special, hard-to-find cover variant that we're doing for issue 1 of Buffy and issue 1 of Angel and Faith. Rebecca drew the whole image, and it's going to be, the left half of it will be a variant cover for Buffy #1, and the right half will be a variant cover for Angel and Faith #1, available through direct market retailers. Okay. So I just want to give these guys a chance to talk a little bit about recent experiences. We've been doing these books for a long time and they've evolved so much. A couple faces up here are brand new to all of you as far as this goes. So I want to start with Dan and Scott. If you have anything to say about how you came into this. You guys are friends and I know you from the same place. You've never really, well, Dan's done a couple comics covers before. Scott, you've never done anything in comics, right?
I've never done interiors, but as far as covers, I think I kind of came on to this just mentioning, you know, I'm a brown coat, and I think we were having dinner and I mentioned that, and you were like, hey, I have a Serenity one-shot that you might be good for. And so the free comic book day cover I had the chance to do last year. And, you know, it's just, it's such a fun job. It's kind of hard to say no to that stuff, so it was really exciting to get to do 6 more of these.
Yeah, and mine was kind of the same thing, having dinner, having lunch, talking about art, and Scott mentioned the covers, and I'm like, I would be very interested in that. My background, I really come out, and Dan does too, we come out a lot of science fiction fantasy covers, novel covers, and that sort of thing. I do stuff for the computer game industry and Magic the Gathering and all those things. Oh, nice! But comics, this is the first time for me. Ironically, I took enough comic book classes in college that I basically minored in it, and I've never worked in the industry after all these years. So this is really my first step into it, and what an amazing property to step into, so I'm thrilled to be on it.
Well said.
George is, has been working full-time, burning the midnight oil on Buffy for the last how many years?
6 years.
So how does it feel changing over to this one?
I was tempted to go on with Buffy for another year just so I could say I've been doing it as long as the show has been on. But I said, all right, you know what? We need to have this coming out beforehand. What was it like?
What's it been like? You got to get adjusted to a whole bunch of new faces.
You know what? I do. And funny enough, and all of you browncoats out there will appreciate this, it wasn't so much the new faces I really had to adjust to. It's that ninth character that Joss always spoke about, which is the ship, that really took me some getting used to, because you do this and you think, well, I can fake this and nobody will really know that, but come on, we're talking about Whedon fans, and that's like detail heavy. So I've actually got schematics of Serenity, and all right, if you go down these stairs, you go over here, and you have to go over here. So when I do my scenes, I make sure whatever the background is theoretically where that background should actually be. So that is why I'm a little late sometimes, Scott.
Yeah, George's doesn't fake anything. George's is meticulous in all this sort of stuff. So Rebecca's you've drawn more than half of the first issue now?
Yeah.
Right? So does it kind of feel like you're doing the same book since it's the whole same team, or how different is it to be doing Buffy after doing Angel and Faith?
Oh, no, not at all. I'm where George's was at the beginning of season 8, how you talked about difficulties of getting all lights at the beginning.
Is the mic totally dead or just quiet? Sad.
Hello? Better? Okay. What I was saying, though, is that it's completely different, because now I feel like I'm in George's shoes back when he started season 8. I'm learning how to draw all of these new characters, and there are a lot of them, like so many more than I had to learn how to draw for Angel and Faith. And the tone is so different, too, just like the tone of the two shows were really different. There's more of a lightness and more of a comedic element to Buffy that wasn't so much present in Angel or Angel and Faith. So I get to... but I do feel more relaxed with it now. I'm getting better at likenesses, I think, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of feels like somebody else is going out with my girlfriend now that I'm not doing the book. You're like, I hope you do good, and I hope you guys are happy together. I guess.
So currently we don't have any plans for Jane to do any actual writing on season 10 or anything. You want to just mention what's keeping you so busy right now, Jane?
Oh, I've got Once Upon a Time.
Oh, was it? Was it totally? Oh, well, you heard what I said. Once Wonderland, and Husbands. I got to do the little Billy arc in this last go-around. I love writing for Billy the Vampire Slayer, which is, I feel, sort of very related to the work I do on Husbands. And, who knows? Who knows what's going to come up?
But Jane was nice enough to come to the Writers' Summit. It's when we do these Writers' Summits to kick off the seasons, people show up that aren't necessarily planning on writing anything. And you want to tell them a little bit about that day, that weekend?
It was this magical weekend. It was Chris Gage and Andrew Chambliss and me and assorted other Buffy highlights. And Joss dropped in. Oh, and Nikki Brendan was there. Can we say that? Yeah, it was really cool. And we sort of talked about what would come up, what we anticipated coming up, with Joss weighing in with his own personal smartiness. It was really neat.
We had gotten the day going. Victor Gischler was there, Chris Gage's wife was there, but we'd been working for a few hours, I think, and we didn't have enough chairs, and so I called down to try to get more chairs because people were sitting on the arms of couches. And finally somebody knocks on the door, and I go open the door, and it's Joss.
Yeah.
And he had never really committed to coming. We thought we might have to do this on our own, but then 3 hours into it, Joss shows up and kind of helped tighten the screws at that point.
Tighten the screws, like kept the furniture from falling apart, or like put thumb screws on us?
Put the screws on our thumbs.
Yeah.
So again, want to open it up for questions, but anything you guys want to get into?
I wanted to mention that I have to sneak out a little early, so I won't be hanging out much longer, but I wanted to sort of drop in and say hi to everybody.
Yeah, so questions for Jane, make sure to go first. But let's fire away if you want to throw up a hand, or if you want to go to the mic. You in the back, Dr. Horrible, is that right? Yeah, there's a lot of good cosplay going on here.
Hey guys, my name is Greg. I have a question for Jane while you're here. So I'm an up-and-coming screenwriter. I'm trying to get in the industry. I moved to LA. I've been writing a lot of specs and originals. Since you've done so much work with TV, specifically sci-fi fantasy, which is what I want to get into, what kind of advice do you have to really get into it easier?
Well, you're doing all the right things. You moved to LA and you're writing a bunch of specs. Get a job if you can in something in the industry. If you can't get a paid job in it, volunteer. And get some industry experience. Then you'll be qualified to apply for programs like the ABC Disney Writing Program, NBC Writers on the Verge, all those programs that help young writers get started. Go make friends at the Writers Guild, find out what programs they have. Join groups like Screenwriters Network. Get yourself a little writing group of your own. Participate in writing sprints. Polish the scripts. Watch TV like you're researching it. Don't read a bunch of stuff about structure. Just make outlines of episodes you like and learn that way. And you'll be on your way.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Hello. I just want to say first that I absolutely love that you're carrying on the spirit of Serenity. Now, also I want to mention that because everyone in this room loves Joss Whedon so much and everything about Serenity, we just waited for an hour after the line was capped, and another line that went way further than the main stage queue. Now I just want to ask, with all this love and dedication towards the series of Firefly and Serenity, at what point do you think someone is going to say, we need to bring this back?
I'm almost afraid.
Isn't Joss kind of doing something with Marvel these days, though? Do you really see that happening anytime soon?
Oh no, someone has to have said it at some point.
Yeah, but you don't want it to be not Joss.
I know. I'm almost worried of what could happen. It's this perfect little gem already that, and we're continuing the world with the comic, and I love it, and it sates me that way, but I'm almost afraid if somebody did get their hands on it again, say Fox or something, what they would do. What they do to I'm happy with the way it is, in a weird way.
Well, and those of you who know me know I'm a fan as well. And while I wasn't with Buffy, but I started and then became one, I was really watching Firefly from the get-go. So in reading the scripts, they are really, really good. And I don't say that from an artist or from an employee of Dark Horse, hypothetically. I say that from a guy who's wanting, just as much as you, to see more Serenity. And again, it was said this is post-movie. So we actually get to see what happens after the fact. And it is I'm on the third script, and it is really, really good. I kid you not. So if we have to settle, and I agree, I would love to see Morena Baccarin up on the screen and all that stuff, sure. But if we have to settle, and I use that term loosely, this really is the best thing we have.
Zach's doing such a great job. When Joss outlined the Shepherd's book, Shepherd's Tale a couple of years ago. He outlined that, he had a very specific story to tell, and he brought Zach in to script it. And when we got that first chunk of script, it was an original graphic novel, and he wrote it in like 10 or 12 page installments. We got that first chunk that featured a scene with most of the cast on board the ship. And reading those script pages, Sierra, who edits a lot of this stuff with me, Sierra and I read that script and we're just like, this is the first time I have felt this much like the show is back. Given all the other comics that we had done, Zach writing this thing, the voices couldn't be better. The characters are just so brought to life, and I can't wait for you to see more of what George's is doing. We just got a note from Fox, not that you care what they think, but we just got a note from Fox when they got issue 1 is all lettered in color. It's finally put together, so you'll see it when you get to your email. They saw it and they were just like, this is fantastic. They were really excited. And you know, they've been known to be wrong, but they're right about this one. Yes?
I was just wondering, with Victor Gischler coming on Angel and Faith, I really only know him from things that are really, really, really gory and dark. The things that are really, really funny. Is the tone of the book actually going to go either of those directions?
It's going to be a perfect balance of the two. No, it won't be very gory, obviously, but it is. I would say that we're going in a slightly darker direction with Angel and Faith this year. Not like, not terribly dark, but it's just what happened in Magic Town at the end of season 9 has a big effect on people and things. In London, the characters and the way things are working in London. And so there is a little bit more of a noir darkness to it. There's still, we're still doing that Whedon sense of humor, but there's a darkness to it that's a little bit different than I think what Chris and Rebecca did. One thing I knew when we had, Zach had asked for George's on Serenity, we talked with Chris and Rebecca about what they wanted to do. Did they want to stay on Angel and Faith, or did they want to go to Buffy? And all either of them said was, I just want to stay with Rebecca, I just want to stay with Chris. They were more concerned with the two of them sticking together than which book they were on, but then it was after the Writers' Summit that Chris said, I think I can do Buffy. And that was when that was decided. And so when we knew we were losing them off Angel and Faith, we knew we wanted to keep Angel and Faith going as a book. We liked the dynamic of those characters, but we didn't want to try to duplicate what was done in season 9. I think that book was just that magic chemistry that you get sometimes when the creative team really clicks. And if we had just tried to duplicate it, we would have missed the mark, so we're going for something a little bit different. But it will be Victor's sense of humor, filtered through Whedon, the kind of sense of humor I think you saw in the Spike miniseries, and it will be a little bit noir horror.
Thank you.
Thank you. Over there?
When it comes to Serenity, is there a possibility that there's going to be a continuing Walsh story with maybe a tie-in, like a legacy of a child that they were hinting towards in the movie?
Well, did anybody read Patton Oswalt's Serenity comic? Patton's pretty cool. So Patton came to us to do a Serenity comic, and he pitched Joss 3 ideas, and Joss picked one of them, and I can spoil it. It's been out for like 3 years, right? So scared. The one thing Joss told him to do, he's like, yeah, this outline is great, and I want you to establish that in the wake of the film, Zoe's pregnant. So in the one shot that we did a couple of years ago, yeah, you're dancing. Zoe was pregnant, and this picks up after that. And so I think the answer to your question is yes, in a roundabout way, but...
Oh, so it's going to pick up after that one, not after the movie.
It is post-movie, yeah, Float Out takes place immediately, Patton's one shot takes place immediately after the movie. This picks up after that.
Okay.
I have to excuse myself now.
Okay, everybody applaud Jane Estes. Yeah, right there.
Okay, so this is kind of going to be for Jane, but I was wondering what the most valuable thing you guys have learned about storytelling is from working on the Buffy, Angel, and Serenity comics, and also I was really curious from Joss himself, I guess.
What was the last part from?
from Joss, what the most valuable thing you've learned about storytelling from working on the comics and also from Joss himself?
Well, George's has worked most closely with him, so start with you.
It's funny because when we were doing Buffy back in the day, there were a couple times where I'd email Joss just on something else, and he's like, "Oh, it's interesting that you did. I'm writing the next script for so and so," and there were a couple. The guy would enlighten you in a weird way when you don't expect it. And he was saying, I can't remember what script it was, but he was saying, yeah, I'm having trouble with this one thing I'm doing. I don't, I get the voices, but he said, I don't know what I'm trying to say. And for some reason that clicked with me. You have to have that focus, whatever your morality is. And really, when you get down to it, all Buffy is, it's a morality play. You watch all of those episodes, and if you have sex where you're underage, something will happen. It's a morality thing. So he was trying to figure out what that morality play was in the script that we were doing. And it's funny, because again, I was on another script, but as soon as he got it, I got that script, I don't know, maybe 2-3 weeks afterwards, and it just fell together. And I said, oh, that's cool, I'm glad you, and I sort of parenthesized, oh, I'm glad you found what you were trying to say. And he's like, yeah, as soon as I understood what the morality was, boom, it all fell into place. So I don't know if that helps, but I think that's Joss's approach. He figures out, I think he does too, he's like, what kind of scenes would I like to see? And then he asks himself, well, what's the morality play? What's the consequence here about what I'm doing?
Cover guys, do you feel like you have an answer for this?
I think storytelling on a cover is actually quite different because we're not really trying to tell a story so much as we're trying to encapsulate the whole story in a single image, which is a totally different challenge. It's package art. It's like, what's the flavor of all this that's in there? And so having the script obviously is a huge help. For me, I feel like if I don't have that manuscript yet, I just don't know where to go with things.
And you haven't had to do a Serenity cover without a script, have you?
Not yet, nope.
Not yet, right. But Scott, you barely had an outline, right?
But it's not even written. I mean, there's nothing. It's like, all right, I have Faith doing this, she's got a gun, and then maybe, have Angel fighting something in the background. And I'm like, what? Exactly. I don't know, something. And then we go back and forth. I'm like, what about this? What about this? And we finally find it. And what's funny about that for me is normally as a cover artist in other industries, something is way done by the time I'm contributing anything to it. But it'll be really neat to see if this weird monster I made up for the second cover of Angel and Faith actually makes it into the comic book, because
it will.
And that's pretty rad, man.
Do you remember the name you coined for that guy?
Oh yeah, it's the Borator. Because a Minotaur was too generic fantasy, so we went with the boar, like the pig with the tusks and everything, man kind of thing, and that's what we went with. And so I said, they're like, what should we do? No, not a Minotaur, it's too generic. And I'm like, what about a Borator? And I'm just like kidding, and Scott's like, if you can make it undead, yes, let's do some of that. Sold.
I think there's a famous illustrator named N.C. Wyatt who illustrated the original Treasure Island and stuff, and one of his rules of illustration was you want to illustrate something that's not in the story. The story artist has already done that job, and so if you look at the Serenity covers, I'm working on number 4 right now, they're all actually scenes that don't quite happen in the script. They're just these little moments in between scenes that I'm trying to capture. So like on the first cover we had, it's Mal and Inara, that, it's not literally, there's no point in the script anywhere that he's embracing her or anything like that. I'm just trying to find something else that embellishes that script already.
I wish we could show him the number 3 cover. The number 3 cover is so great.
You could.
You gotta wait a little while longer.
I have to say, I've taken the covers that I've done more so than in Buffy with because I send you all that stuff. I've taken to becoming like WTF covers. I'm thinking if I can make you look at it and go, is that inside? Is that what's going to happen? What's going to do? And I think I first fell on that when we were doing a Buffy cover and she gets her arm cut off.
Right.
And I was telling Scott, this will be so cool because everybody think it'll be Buffy that gets her arm cut off. And then the MacGuffin is that it's actually the robot Buffy. And for Serenity,
you guys are all caught up, right?
Oh, yeah. And she's not pregnant. Oh, yeah? Okay. So I really am doing that, or keeping that in mind whenever I send out cover layouts, to really have a WTF moment. Like if you were just at a comic store and you saw it, you're going, oh my God, I got to pick this up because what's happening to River, or what's happening to Jane, or what's going on?
Rebecca, the storytelling question?
Well, because I started on this book when I was still pretty green, I still am. I feel like I learned to draw through this series, and I learned so much through Scott especially. And when I first came onto the book, I felt like I was overdrawing everything. I was making every panel a bleed panel, which means to extend it all the way across so that nothing gets, so that it gets cut off by the printer. And I was putting backgrounds in every panel, and I really learned that less is more in comics, especially with these books, because one of the great things about the Buffy comics is that I feel like we've introduced so many people who didn't read comics before to the comics world. And so the clarity of the story has to trump everything. And if you can't understand what's going on, and you can't read the speech balloons very clearly and see the flow of the action through the panels very clearly, then nothing else really matters. And I think that was the thing that I took away most from these last 2.5 years, was just pulling back and making sure everything is really clear and easy to read.
My favorite thing I learned about storytelling from Joss, there's a few things, but the one that like really clicked for me was really casually one time he said, well, you gotta fall in love with moments, not moves. I was like, what? What was that? And we talked about it for a while, and what he meant was that you can have your characters doing things, you can have these clever twists, but none of it means anything except for what it means to them. So whatever you do to your characters, you can have a great imagination, you can put them through all sorts of paces, but it's what those things and what the other parts of the story really mean to the characters. If you can get it across to the reader what like the emotional weight of that twist or turn or scene is, then you're really telling a story. And that's the thing that all of what I do, I try to remember. Yeah. It's about the moment. Over here.
I just wondered if you guys wanted to mention like your favorite episode, or your favorite scene, your favorite moment from any of the Joss Whedon shows.
Rebecca?
Sorry. I realized that I swallowed the ice, but I didn't want to spit it out and be gross, so I just had to chew it. Okay. Let's see. I've got so many. I've said this before in interviews. I love the episodes that make me cry, and the one that makes me cry more than any is the one, I can never remember the name of the episode though. It's the one after the body, when Dawn tries to resurrect Joyce. Yes.
Conversations with dead people. Yeah.
And she comes to the door and they tear up the oh my god, it creeps me out. It also makes me, it's just heartbreaking. It's amazing. It's an amazing piece of storytelling.
So, being a cover artist, I have a lot more leniency with deadlines than the interior guys do, and I paint very realistically. So, I usually look for screen caps of my actors when I paint the covers, and the result is every time I do a cover, I basically re-watch the entire season of Firefly and Serenity. I think I've done that like maybe 7 or 8 times now, and it's still so good. For some reason, I am really smitten with the scene where Kaylee buys the dress that she wants. I don't know why, I find it so charming, but it's just a weird scene and great to me.
I watched a lot of the Buffy stuff when it first came out, and it's been years and years since I've watched it, and so I'm getting reacquainted with it. So I have the DVDs, and I'm starting to go through it, and I'm so stoked about it. I just want to, I'm really absorbing Angel Season 1 right now, but the thing is, I'm supposed to be looking for likenesses. So literally, I am freeze-framing that thing, and there's that scene where Faith is dancing when she shows up in LA or whatever, and she's dancing in the bar. It's like her first reappearance. So obsessed with her in that. I mean, dude, no, you guys don't even understand. The way her hair is just like, and then what's really sweet is the images are like really dark and grainy because she's in a club. So then I get those bad boys in Photoshop. I do a little levels adjustment on it, and all of a sudden, she's totally revealed to me. So, at any rate, but the thing is, I want to watch it all, but I'm like on a mission. I am hunting. I have drawn a sketch that has a head in a certain position, and I have to go through every bit of film to try to find something that comes close to it. And I get caught up, and I wind up watching the show instead of actually freeze-framing it, and then, oh crap, now I gotta go back. So, anyway, it's an adventure getting reacquainted with it. It's work, but it's the long way to go about doing it because it takes me like 3 hours to go through one episode. It's insane.
I'm like Rebecca, and I'm sure everybody. That's an easy one. When everybody, somebody's dying or somebody cries. I mean, every time Oz leaves Willow, that's stuff that just gets you. So that to me is easy. That right there, you get it. Or, you're not made of wood. It is definitely going to be emotional. But when I came into Buffy, everybody knows I didn't watch it before, so I came into season 6 and 7 before I was into seasons first 1 and 5. And I thought it was so cool, and I didn't know really the magnitude of it, but when Willow goes all dark, and she's, nothing can stop me now, and the end of the episode, bam, she gets hit by Giles, and he's like, I'd like to test that theory. I was like, that is so, never more did I ever see a comic book moment in a television show than that. And I was so honored to recreate that in season 8, when Amy, the rat, is terrorizing, nothing can stop me now. And Willow comes from behind and says, I like to test that theory. And I thought that was just such a cool comic book moment, so.
I want you guys to remember what Scott said about Faith's hair in that scene, in that club, when you see the number 2 cover. Because I was wondering what was going on with her hair on that cover. Remember that. And you are like the best Kaylee.
We've been gushing over you over here.
You make my job so much easier. You should pose for us.
Yeah, even that's what Jane was talking to me about. She's like, oh my God, she's got the smile the same.
Well, thank you. Will you tell Jane? I wanted to tell her she's really inspirational, and Rebecca as well, as a woman. That's my neighbor, who I just met today, like 2 hours ago. As a woman in media, like you see a lot of men, and it's slowly getting there, and I just want to, I'm not going to talk long about that, but like it's really inspirational to see women in media, like, especially because Joss writes so powerful of women and have women represent them. But if you could write for or draw for anything, what would you do? It's sort of a fun question.
Serenity was definitely on the top of my list, no joke. I'm a huge Frank Herbert fan. I think I would illustrate Dune if I could. I think your first question actually is worth mentioning again, women in the field. I think it's certainly a growing trend. And like Scott mentioned, we do a lot of science fiction, fantasy stuff. And pretty much all the New York Times best-selling authors right now are women, like in that genre. And there seems to be this influx of female artists as well. Every young illustrator I see coming out of school seems to be a woman, and they're killing it. So I don't know if it's something about the genre in particular, but you're getting your wish.
And particularly though, I mean, working on the Whedon stuff's been great. Doing Faith is great for me. I have a daughter, she's just turned 11, and I just love how I am not, because when you do science fiction fantasy, you're often prescribed to do women in a certain way, gigantic boobs and, huge swords and all this stuff. And I am in love with the fact that not only am I not supposed to do that, but I'm really not supposed to do that. I mean, literally, do not make Faith look like a pinup. That is the rule, and that is amazing to me, and I'm thrilled with it. Dream project? Probably my own stuff. I think a lot of artists, we have that, I ain't gonna lie, man. We all have that inner thing we're working on, and we'll get to it someday, and we touch it here and there. I do children's books too sometimes, so every once in a while I get to break away and do a children's book. But I would love to write my own long-form novel and illustrate the hell out of that thing. That's the idea. Scott, you want to publish it? Sure. All right.
I would love to do anything Star Wars related. I've also been thinking a lot lately, as a really big fan of classical ballet and classical opera, about staging modern stories as ballets or operas. My favorite book is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which I would love to see as an opera someday. But then I was just thinking the other day, it would be amazing to have like a Buffy ballet. And I would love to do like the costume designs for something like that. So that would be like my dream, mind-blown project.
Yeah, I'm selfish, man. Anything that's good, I'm like, oh man, I wanted to do that. I want to do that. So any like Saga that's coming out, Hellboy when that comes out. I was such a huge fan of Concrete when that came out. Anything that's good, I'm always like, oh God, I want to do that stuff. So I'm a diehard comic fan and literature and all. So anything that's out there that's really good, I tend to be like, wow, I wonder if I can get in on that. I mean, it goes to show, I at no time, I don't have a contract on Buffy or Serenity. So at no time was I said, well, you have to stay here and do this. I could have left at any time. And it was because I love this, and by extension, I've met a lot of you guys, and a lot of you guys have come up to me. It feels not so much like a job, but a family nowadays. And all the people you do, I may not remember names, and I'll tell people whoever comes up to me, I say that, but I remember the face, and when we start to talk, the essence of what we both are into tends to come across. So the reason I've stayed really is more because of that. And everyone's saying, well, you know, there's a difference between brown coats and Buffy people, so you better get ready. So I'm like, well, it hasn't hit yet. I'll let you know when it does come around if there is that big a difference.
Really quickly, none of the writers of these 3 books are here tonight. Victor Gischler gets in tonight and will be at the show through the weekend. He'll be signing at the Dark Horse booth and other places, so you might get a chance to meet Victor. Zach didn't come to this thing and probably really wouldn't say a whole lot if he did. Christos Gage wanted to be here and he wanted me to read something really briefly. I want to thank Joss, Dark Horse, and all of you for this amazing opportunity. I know how much these characters mean to everyone, and I take the responsibility very seriously. Luckily, Joss and the Buffyverse Brain Trust came up with some fantastic ideas at the summit, and I'm so excited to run with them. I'm hoping Scott has shown you examples of Rebecca's stunning art, so you know that's going to be great. I promise I'll bust my ass to deliver the kinds of stories you all deserve. Let's do this, people. And parenthetically, he adds, and we know exactly who this is for, he says, if anyone asks, I'm going to write Spike different than I did in Angel and Faith. Spuffy Latino, you hear that? Is that it for you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we got 10 minutes, so let's try to go quick.
I recently read in an interview with Zach that he said after 6 issues, he's done, but you know, if it does well, there's room for it to continue. And at the risk of sounding demanding, thank you for the miniseries, but I don't want a miniseries. I want season 2, and then I want season 3, and 4, and 5. What do we have to do? What are the numbers? Like, give us something you can put online and tell everybody. And
It really all comes down to the story. And I asked Joss a long time ago, do you want to do this as a monthly book? And he didn't feel that he didn't want to. He wanted to continue to do it as miniseries. And at that point, I think it was around the time we were working on Shepherd's Tale. And around that time, we decided, we figured out that Zach was going to write something. We didn't know when it was going to be. But we really work hard to make the Angel and Faith and the Buffy books really good. We've really extended ourselves to have an enormous story for season 9, and we're doing something in some ways bigger for season 10. I think we would stretch the resources that we have, we would stretch them thin if we tried to add another ongoing series with Serenity at this time. I know we couldn't get Zach to do it. Andrew Chambliss killed himself. Not literally, don't. Andrew just busted his ass to stay on top of this. Andrew at the time, when he agreed to write season 9, Andrew was writing Vampire Diaries. And he was a relatively new writer on that show. And he committed to a monthly series because he wanted the chance to keep working with Joss. And then he left Vampire Diaries, wound up on Once, where he was a much more significant writer on the show, and it became a bigger and bigger commitment. And that guy, to turn in scripts, he was burning the midnight oil too much. And Zach would not be able to do that, to do a monthly Serenity. So it's going to continue to be miniseries when we can make the stars align. And right now, I feel like the way to do that is when we can get Zach and we can get George's, we'll do more. But Zach has to have a story to tell, Joss has to have a story to tell, and I gotta not lose this guy to DC. Thank you. Yep.
Hi. I was wondering if Julia...
In the question you're gonna ask, can you do it in a British accent?
I was wondering if...
More crazy.
I was wondering if the Drusilla miniseries that Julia Landau was to write is still coming out?
We're not working on it at this time. I still think it'll come out eventually, but there's nothing happening right now, unfortunately.
Also, are there any plans for Drusilla to appear in season 10?
You're freaking me out. and I will not answer that. Because you're crazy. Thanks. Okay, and one more question. They're giving me the 5-minute sign.
I got a question for you.
Uh-oh.
What happened to me? Vampire with a soul, post-apocalyptic Los Angeles, with an ancient demon god who looks like a Smurf. Come on, I gotta get better than 4 issues.
It was 5, but we didn't have a great plan for Spike in season 9. We thought we knew what we were going to do with him, but we realized as we got a little ways into the series that we didn't have a really fully fleshed out plan, and that was why we needed to spin him off into a miniseries and really get to explore the character, because he was being sidelined in the main Buffy series. That is a problem that we've solved with season 10. Spike has a great arc in season 10. Really worthwhile, and I think we're doing a better job with season 10 of making sure that on the Buffy title, all the main characters really have very worthwhile stuff to be doing. And we're gonna make, I believe we're gonna, dare I say, we're gonna make Spike fans kinda happy. Okay, any closing words from you guys?
Well, don't you want to mention the signing tomorrow?
Oh yeah, do you know what time it is? Crap, where's Ob? Noon in the Dark Horse booth. What's the booth number, Ob?
1636.
1636 on the main floor, you can't miss it. Thank you. Aubrey Driver. I carry our publicist with us everywhere. But there's these guys, you're all signing,
Yeah,
right?
and I think in addition, if you have comics to sign, I think we're also going to have some prints there as well.
Yep, we're going to have giveaways. Bring your books. There's books to buy. There will be free pieces. I believe Steve Morris will also be there. He's the cover artist on Buffy this season. He was Angel and Faith last season. And Victor Gischler will be there for the signing as well. So it's all these guys and more. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for staying late. Thank you for supporting me. Thanks to Whedonversity for being here tonight, too.